Real Madrid are about to spend how much? Florentino's lost the plot, and it's Bayern's guy he's going after. United allegedly sniffing around Tonali, which, sure, why not? And Barcelona thought Alvarez was done? Nah, that one's getting messy. All this and much more in today's episode. Before we get into the news, give it a like. It genuinely helps more than you'd think. Done? Let's dive straight in. Julian Alvarez is moping around Madrid again, while an absolute masterclass in transfer chaos unfolds around him. Barcelona finally emerged from hibernation and slapped a €100 million offer on Atletico's table. Bold gesture. Only Atletico weren't exactly moved by the sentiment. They didn't just say no, they went on social media and publicly accused the Catalans of lying through their teeth. Cadena Ser reckons relations between the two clubs are now officially torched, and negotiations have hit a wall so thick you couldn't put a dent in it with a sledgehammer. And Alvarez himself? Dreaming of Camp Nou. The Argentine is thoroughly sick of watching his club bottle it every time a trophy comes into view, and he's not opposed to packing his bags. There's just one small wrinkle. Julian's temperament is far too measured for a proper revolt. He's not going to kick down Simeone's office door, weep into a microphone, or demand a transfer on live telly, which means Barcelona have to negotiate. With a club that just spat in their face on the internet, inspiring setup all round. And then Arsenal waltz in from London. The English side are apparently considered the only sane buyer in this particular Cold War. Mikel Arteta wouldn't mind having the Argentine, not as a centre-forward alongside Victor Gyökeres, but out wide on the left. Sensible enough, especially after the Swedes' rather patchy season. On paper, it all fits together perfectly, and the Arsenal board are already rubbing their hands. Only this master plan has one rather glaring flaw. Alvarez himself has flatly refused to come back to England. Life in rainy London after Manchester City holds precisely zero appeal for him. So you've got a perfect circle of misery. Barcelona want him, but physically cannot negotiate, because Atletico's wounded pride is getting in the way. Arsenal can afford him, but he won't come near the place. Every intermediary is arriving at the same conclusion. Alvarez isn't going anywhere. 100 million offers, public slanging matches on X, burnt bridges, bruised egos. Also, the Argentine can stay exactly where he already was. Tremendous drama. Absolutely everyone lost. Just another Tuesday on the transfer market. Florentino Perez has switched back into his deranged collector mode. The Real Madrid president is no longer bothering to hide it. Next week, he claims, Madrid are going to detonate the market with a Champions League superstar signing. By the time journalists stopped hyperventilating and started actually reporting, The Guardian laid it all out. The main target is Michael Olise. Real Madrid are reportedly ready to drop a staggering €150 million on the Frenchman. Perez's plan is straightforward. Resurrect the Galacticos era after 2 seasons without a major trophy. When you've got a bottomless budget, why exercise any restraint? And where did this sudden infatuation come from? Apparently, it's pure impulse buying. Fabrizio Romano claims Perez fell head over heels for Olise during the Champions League quarter-finals. Don Florentino was so taken by the winger's performance that he immediately deployed his favorite methods. Madrid have been working on Olise's inner circle ever since, dangling every promise under the sun. And it seems the whispers landed. The player has reportedly given his preliminary agreement to a move. Classic Perez mind games, working exactly as intended. You'd think Bayern Munich are panicking and frantically hunting for a replacement? Not quite. The club's hierarchy, led by Uli Hoeneß, have erected a wall in front of the Spanish delegation. The honorary president has come out and called Olise unsellable in plain terms. And you can see his point. Why would Vincent Kompany hand over the key figure who delivered back-to-back Bundesliga titles? The man's contracted until 2029. Bayern can afford to tell Madrid to do one. Real Madrid are planning to submit a formal offer on Tuesday. And if you're the kind of person who's already seen this coming, who watches every transfer saga with us and never misses an episode, you know what to do? Hit that like button. It keeps this channel running. And frankly, for a story this big, it's the least we can both do. But those 150 million are just the opening shot in what's shaping up to be a very prolonged battle of wills. Madrid desperately need to recapture their prestige. Bayern need to show they can't be pushed around. So, we're in for a proper saga, one where common sense will almost certainly finish last, and the figures on the checks will be absolutely obscene. Manchester United are at it again with their fondness for the exotic, this time with a distinctly Catalan flavour. Old Trafford has decided Luke Shaw could do with some genuine competition, and the gaze of United's hierarchy has landed on Alejandro Balde. At Barcelona, Mundo Deportivo's sources suggest the idea is being received with rather suspicious enthusiasm. The Catalans are desperate to finally tie down Cancelo or pinch Cucurella, so they're quite happy to pack their academy product off for somewhere around £43 million. On the surface, it looks clean. Young, explosive, technically gifted, but there's a detail that turns this whole deal into something of a questionable venture: injuries. Over the last 3 years, Balde has missed more matches than some players manage in an entire career. Muscular problems have become his permanent shadow, which raises a fairly obvious question. Why would a club that spent 12 years managing Luke Shaw's medical file want to buy a younger version of the same problem? That's not squad reinforcement, that's just expanding the injury ward. Jorge Mendes lurking in the background means negotiations would presumably run smoothly enough. There's even talk of a Rashford swap to soften the financial risk. But Balde himself is in no rush to leave home, and rival interest could push the fee into genuinely eye-watering territory. United could end up paying a premium for the privilege of rehabilitating yet another talent in their treatment room. Questionable logic, even by their standards. The Savinho story at Manchester City is a textbook illustration of how quickly you can go from being the next Neymar to being that lad who warms up on the touchline and not much else. He arrived from Troyes for 40 million as a future star. Reality proved somewhat less glamorous. 1,500 minutes across the season, 4 goals, and the permanent shadow of Doku blocking out any sunlight. Not quite the trajectory you're dreaming of at 22. At a certain point, it becomes obvious where you sit in the manager's pecking order, somewhere between the third choice keeper and the groundskeeping staff. So what do? You look for the exit. And according to ESPN Brazil, that exit might lead to Tottenham Hotspur. Spurs' logic is perfectly straightforward. They need more attacking threat. And here's a technically gifted Brazilian with Premier League experience who simply wasn't given the room to express himself. The most entertaining part of all this is the player's own position. Savinho has apparently grown so accustomed to the English weather that he's not even entertaining the idea of going abroad. That's a rare thing. A footballer genuinely keen to swap being a rotation option at one of the world's best clubs for a leading role at a club that is, shall we say, still very much in search of greatness. It all comes down to the fee, and City don't do charity. Spurs had a go at this last summer and got nowhere. The situation's different now. The player wants out, and Spurs need someone to fill the team sheet. Whether Vinay Venkatesham has the patience to haggle City down to a sensible number for a player whose development clearly stalled in Manchester remains to be seen. The whole thing looks tidy enough until you start counting the conditions. But then, when has that ever stopped anyone? Manchester United and their irrepressible urge to hoover up anything that isn't nailed down, or, in this case, anything that's very firmly planted in the middle of Newcastle's midfield. The Sandro Tonali story has taken on a fresh coat of paint. Word is that Ineos have earmarked something in the region of £85 million for the Italian. Caught offside reports United are leading the race, having left Arsenal and City trailing behind. Though, let's be honest about those two. Neither Arsenal nor City are losing much sleep over missing out on Tonali. They've got their own priorities, from Matheus Fernandes to Elliot Anderson. Old Trafford, on the other hand, has somehow convinced itself that Tonali is the lifeline they've been desperately searching for. Ambitious plan, if not an outright naive one. United are going in with their best card, dangling around £80 million to, and I quote, test the water. But the ground in Newcastle is granite hard right now. After the Magpies successfully moved Isak to Liverpool and Gordon to Barcelona, the gaps in their budget have filled themselves in nicely. The Saudi ownership is no longer backed into a corner by FFP regulations. They can afford to say no, and they are saying it. £100 million. Or don't bother picking up the phone. Tonali at 26 isn't an investment in the future. It's a blue light emergency purchase for the present. Michael Carrick, if the whispers are to be believed, sees him as the perfect cog in his system. But we all know what United's systems are like. About as sturdy as wet cardboard. So we've arrived at the classic transfer standoff. One side won't sell for under £100 million. The other can't pay that. Not with their financial constraints. And all of this while they've just gone and signed Edison as well. How many holding midfielders do you actually need per square metre of pitch? In Manchester, it seems they're once again trying to solve structural problems by throwing money at them rather than engaging the grey matter. Whether that ever works, well, that's a conversation for another day. By the way, if you've been watching my videos regularly but still haven't subscribed, congratulations, you're pulling a classic United move. Lots of interest, all the right noises, but somehow never quite getting the deal over the line. Let's not drag this into a transfer saga. Hit subscribe and smash that bell right now. It's completely free, unlike Tonali, and the result is guaranteed. You won't miss a single new video. What do you reckon? Is Tonali actually worth the mad money, or is it time United learned to shop a bit smarter? Let us know in the comments.